For decades, Nigeria's housing deficit has been debated across conference halls, with figures shifting widely from 17 million to 28 million units. Now, a government committee has released validated data that puts the deficit for 2025 at nearly 50 million housing units. The number is catastrophic. The housing minister says Nigeria must deliver 550,000 new units every year for the next decade. That would require investment of about 5.5 trillion naira annually. But current production is just 100,000 units per year, mostly through informal self-construction. That is a five-fold production gap, and it is widening. Kano State recorded the highest concentration of inadequate housing, while Bayelsa recorded the lowest. That means a single federal policy cannot address a crisis that looks different across states. The crisis is also no longer confined to the poor. About 40% of university lecturers in Lagos reportedly sleep in their offices. Experts say the housing market has priced them out of basic dignity. What are the practical solutions developers and government can use to bridge the widening gap in the provision of sustainable housing in Nigeria? Group Chief Executive Xylus Group, Oluwatosin Olatujoye, joins us now for an analysis. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you've listened to the data we've just projected, and of course it's quite disheartening when you hear about things like that. That ever-widening gap regarding the housing deficit, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so looking at the housing gap is a major national concern because if you look at it, the housing deficit is not just about numbers. Yeah. So it's about looking at people that are really affected when it comes to housing deficit. And these are people that does not have a specific place that they are sleeping. These people don't have a house for themselves. They don't have a roof on their head and all that. So it's a major concern that I feel we need to start looking critically into and provide a lasting solution that would, reduce the housing deficit drastically.
Well, as you said, these are not just figures. They are human beings who are out of shelter, who do not have a place to live or adequate, place to hide their head. But reports also shows that 70% of Nigerians live in informal or substandard housing, while the average annual income is far below what's required to own a home. Do you think that developers are contributing to this, especially when it comes to the, pricing homes for the Nigerian reality or for a small elite group?
Okay, so one thing I've seen is that there have not been a structured arrangement between the government and the developers. When there's a structured arrangement between government and developers, this will make proper things to be looked into. Like when it comes to construction, there's going to be a compliance team. There's going to be an internal control system that ensures that the quality of building that is being constructed by developers are being done in a professional way. And at the same time, there's going to be a quality assurance team that ensures that if there's a collaboration between the government and developers, they go in and ensure that the proper construction system is done. And by so doing, you won't be seeing all this under constructed housing here and there.
All right, so government is implementing the Renewed Hope Housing Program with plans to provide 30% of units to low-income earners. But is that barely scratching the surface on current housing deficits? Mind you, over time we've had previous governments also project housing units like that, but very little has been going on in that sector, you think?
All right, so thank you very much, because I've looked at the renewable housing strategy, and I've seen that probably there may likely be one or two lapses, because when it comes to Renew Hope and when it comes to construction in Nigeria, there must be a collaboration. Okay. The collaboration has to come from the government and the developers that would construct the project. Looking at the housing deficit, we can say, okay, between 14-point-something million to 20 million. And dividing that alone into a structured construction. You realize that we need about, if you are to assign 5,000 housing units to each developer to build maybe in 10 years or in 20 years, it means that each will need about 4,000 developers to construct. And looking at it all over the states within the country, and picking 100 developers in each state and putting them together to construct. So it has to be intentional move between the government, the developers, and also the people that will finance the project, which we can talk about the mortgage banks, we can talk about the pension and all the rest.
But are you seeing a serious proactive effort, a deliberate effort towards that coming to fruition?
Yeah, so basically I've not seen an intentional move. There must be an intentional move where parties come into a platform. And you can see that it's actually displaying from the issue of knowledge gap. And whoever is taking that responsibility to bring people together to discuss critically on how to reduce housing deficit in Nigeria.
So you're proposing a public-private partnership thing to, tackle this issue of housing deficit. But do you think that the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria and the National Housing Fund that were designed, of course, to improve access to housing, do you think that they're doing enough? And if not, what do you think that they should be doing?
Okay, so basically, I won't say they are not doing enough, because to the best of their knowledge, they are doing what they are expected to do. But if you look at it critically, federal housing mortgage has never for once created a system where we collate people or gather people into a room to discuss how to solve this issue. What federal housing mortgage scheme is actually giving out to people is accessibility to mortgage if you qualify. So there must be a dedicated discussion within a room where we discuss about how to solve it. Then we will now talk about how the mortgage bank can come in to also support the development, because the mortgage bank by themselves will not develop. They are only going to produce the finance. The developers are to develop, then the government are to provide lands. So when there's a collaboration within both parties, it makes it work out.
All right. We're also seeing a lot of data here. So residential prices are also projected to rise by 5% to 15%, in 2026. Highest increases expected in suburban infrastructure-linked zones. So what's the implication of this inflationary trends in the sector, as it were?
Okay, so the major implication is still going to fall down to the consumers, people that are buying into those projects. Because if the price of production is high, it means that the price of selling will also be high. So I was kudos to MREF with the initiative that they are bringing up in terms of giving out an MREF mortgage to customers, and also supporting developers in terms of construction finance with a reduced rate of with a reduced interest rate. So far, they have been giving less than 10% in terms of interest rates, and that has actually been helping some developers to mark up some of the high costs in terms of materials. And so far, so good. I believe that if we can get low pricing when it comes to finance, it will also help in bringing that, because inflation is something that as a developer we don't have control over.
Indeed, and I'd like to know what developers like Xylos Group are doing to ensure that this is resolved. Because when we talk about housing deficit, the conversation is usually focused on the urban areas like Lagos. When we're looking at rural areas, the conditions, the housing conditions, is really deplorable. What are developers like your company doing to tackle this issue headlong?
All right, so thank you very much. As a company, it's a concern for us. And we are also looking at ways at which we can support the government in reducing housing deficit. So sometimes last year, January, we announced an initiative of constructing 2,000 housing to support the government. And as we speak, we've started the initiative since last year, January. And I can say that confidently we are almost done with almost 700 units already. So, and I believe by the time we deliver 2,000 housing also from Zelos alone, it will further reduce housing debt because 2,000 housing units is not small. Then also, we have seen that there's a knowledge gap. I have a foundation called Oluwatosin Olatujoye Foundation. And of recent, we came up with the fact that let us organize real estate, African entrepreneurship real estate bootcamp, where we bring a lot of developers together, aspiring developers, developers that are already running in the business. We bring them into a room. We train them on how to develop more in terms of the knowledge that they need to have in order to develop more housing for people. So it's a major concern, and Zelos is actually taking the role.
All right. Well, when it comes to the accessibility to building materials as well, that is also an integral part of what you do when it comes to the construction industry, as it were. So tell us, is it most of the materials, are they sourced within Nigeria? Are they locally sourced? Especially when it comes to steel rods and stuff like that, since we don't. Jakarta is still more inbound as we speak to up till now. And how is that also impacting accessing these tools, the materials to build, as it were, in the final value change towards the building this, estates, as it were? Material
sourcing is a major concern. It's not going to be real, or it's not going to be a big deal when you're still constructing few houses. But in a situation whereby you're constructing mass housing, you realize that material management is key. So material management will start from sourcing the right vendors to supply materials, then also ensuring that the materials move from their location to the site. So logistics also come in. The issue of diesel also come in. So everything is attached together when it comes to material sourcing. But what I feel could be a very good solution that could help is when we talk about buying materials in bulk. In bulk, we are building, let's say we set the target to build 10,000 housing. We bring in Dangote, we bring in Lafarge, we bring in Football, we bring everybody into a room, then we commit to the quantity of materials that will be needed for that project. And by so doing, there won't be any form of inflation affecting that material that you've purchased in bulk. So one of the system or one of the strategy we use is that from last year, we started buying materials in bulk ahead. So all this inflation that is happening in terms of material increase and all that is not really affecting the materials that we have purchased already on the number of units that we are constructing. So if we're going to construct the next one, it's going to be a different strategy entirely in terms of the pricing and construction cost. Can you see that?
Yeah. All right. So, in the end, what the average Nigerian wants is adequate housing so that every man, every woman, every child can have a place to hide their heads. Thank you so much for your time. Oluwatosin Olatujoye, Group Chief Executive, Zelos Group. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.